Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Re-Tifos, where I take old stories I've narrated and update in modern audio standards. This particular story is called I Saw Humanity Die, written by Emperor of the Anarchy. 38 hours, 46 minutes. The human civilization died in 38 hours and 46 minutes. Those were the longest 2 days of my life. Even now, every time I fall asleep, I am back in Center Point, back watching the destruction of the most promising species the galactic community had seen in centuries, back where my hands could do nothing, and my words fell upon the void. Humanity was a young race by galactic standards, and their technology was ancient by anyone's standards. Truly, they were a disappointingly average or even sub-average race at first glance. That is, until you realize that they had electricity for less than 300 years. This was a shock to just about every single civilization in the galaxy. In less than 300 years, this young race had gone from a pre-industrial amalgamation of empires and tribes to a largely united interstellar civilization. This was unbelievable. No, I mean literally unbelievable. Nobody believed it until 30 separate organizations sent stealth vessels to the human star system to investigate the claims. The results were 100 times more shocking than anyone could have even imagined. Humans were special, you see. They had a lot of trouble inventing entirely new things or discovering entirely new branches of science. Something as simple as the force field, for instance, eluded them right up until their end. A civilization that had not one but 3 different types of FTL, and yet it never even came close to understanding force fields. Crazy, ain't it? So, what makes them special then? You ask. Well, it was their ability to build upon technology. Their technology advanced in an explosive rate compared to the rest of the galaxy. For example, they went from discovering heavier-than-air flight to having fully capable propeller-powered flight craft in 8 years, and reached the limit of propeller technology 20 years after that. It took my people 290 years to do the same, and another 50 to create our first jet aircraft. Humans? Humans had jets before they even reached the limits of propeller aircraft. Not just that, but sadly, they also had nuclear weapons, which they used almost immediately after discovering. Before I continue, I need to explain something. Humans were warriors. They were the purest warriors nature has ever created. This is the secret behind their strange technological path. Every technology they had ever created was backboned by military need. Tell me, what is the most apocalyptic war you can think of? The Vosaki Civil War, where over 100,000 died. The Younger Wars, which killed an unimaginable 1 million. Yeah, well, how about the Human Great War? That one killed well over 16 million people. You can take a minute to process that information. You okay now? You done regurgitating your breakfast? Okay, let's continue. Humans mastered the art of building upon technology to have an advantage on one another in case of war. This is why they were able to simply explosively upgrade their technology year by year. Rather than discovering something new, they were on a race to have the best version of what they already knew. A constant cycle of technological counters and responses made them grow at a truly astounding rate. Sadly, this also made them extremely volatile. You see, humans had had 2 world wars before we found them, the Great War and World War II. After the second of these 2 wars, which, by the way, made the first one look like a footnote in their history books, only 2 major nations, the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, but only the United States had a navy. And boy, was it an enormous one. It was so enormous and powerful, in fact, that they could exert their power across the entire world's oceans. And they did, unlike before, where every merchant ship could at any time be attacked by pirates or by another nation's warships. Now they were all protected by the U.S. Navy. This led to an unprecedented time of peace and growth in the planet. This quickly made the USA the most stable, rich, and powerful nation in their world, the anchor of every single nation's economy in their world. And this is what killed them. Center Point was a Type A stealth observation space station. It had been secretly placed between their home world of Earth and their colony world of Mars. The station was undergoing renovations to make contact with Earth. Contact would be established in 2 days and, I sometimes wonder if we had made contact earlier. No, I'm sorry. Let's focus on the story. Okay. So, I was the chief of observation in the station. My subordinates had strict orders to contact me should anything abnormal happen. You see, tensions had been increasing between the European Union, the United States, and the Martian Republic, and after the declaration of independence by the United Colonies of Germany with the backing of the Martian Republic, this could become a shooting war at any moment. Actually, this is the reason we decided to make contact with Earth. This was far from the first so-called Cold War, and this was far from the hottest even the past decade, but better safe than sorry, I guess. Anyway, my head assistant told me something weird was happening in the US. I tried to get more information from him, but the poor man was unable to explain himself since he had no idea exactly what was wrong, just that something definitely was. It didn't take me long to reach the observation room, where almost everyone had their screens focused on the USA. I activated my screen, and immediately I understood what my assistant had meant by weird. I was getting strange readings across the spectrum, strange movements of people, an absurd increase in their use of internet and phones, an explosion of violence, and what can only be called looting in grocery stores, seemingly endless pillars of vehicles trying to exit a number of cities, and a low-level seismic resonance across the entire continent. Things happened really quickly after I noticed this. That's because, just as I did, every single screen in the observation deck went dark. There were only 2 reasons for this to happen. The first is a power outage, impossible in fusion-powered station. The other is to protect the user from images so bright they can harm him. A few seconds later, the screens came back on, and what I saw was simply unbelievable. A dark cloud so big 100 nuclear bombs would fall short to imitate was visibly rising into the atmosphere. Yellowstone, one of Earth's supervolcanoes, had just gone, and this was only the beginning. The explosion was so violent and powerful it created visible waves that spread out like they do on a pond after a rock has been thrown in it. The waves of moving rock and dirt uprooted entire cities as they devastated their way across the nation until they reached the sea 45 minutes later. In 45 minutes, 350 million out of 400 million Americans died. In 45 minutes, every semblance of the American government and its military chain of command was destroyed. In 45 minutes, 200 out of the 215 American warships were either destroyed or buried under dozens of meters of stone and dirt. In 45 minutes, the United States of America ceased to exist, and the reaction by the rest of the world was immediate. The 15 U.S. Space Force ships that had kept the EU and MR ships from shooting one another were immediately and savagely attacked by both. And as the Texas and the last American ship foundered, Admiral Petrov, within its command center, sent out a signal to over 10,000 stealth nuclear missiles scattered throughout the void. The missiles immediately activated their engines, and in but a few hours, hell reigned on Mars as every single Martian colony and bunker, as well as every single EU, Chinese, and Russian colony, was laid to waste. Unsure whose missiles were now raining on their people, everyone retaliated on everyone. Israel scorched Egypt, Germany burned Israel, Britain burned France and Germany, etc. The devastation was supreme. It was epic and truly apocalyptic. Not one nation was spared, not one nation spared another. Finally, even the planet was laid to waste as someone's dead man's trigger activated. Over 100 jump engines secretly buried on Luna. Luna disappeared and reappeared about a few hundred kilometers away from Earth and moving at relativistic speeds. The impact was fantastic. Earth split open like a ripe fruit and its magma scattering like juice, its tectonic plates discarded like useless peel. That's how humanity ended, not with a boom, but with a cataclysmic bang. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster117, Caspar Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.